Right up here, is this good? Okay, welcome everyone here and in the great world out there to the official May Speakers Bureau for District 12. We have a really full program. In fact, I am really privileged. I want to brag a little bit. We get to have, I've never introduced the President City International President. So after 50 years of Toastmasters, I'm having a new experience today. We have to thank some of the people, the functionaries that made us sure that we are able to function. Starting with the VA hospital here in Loma Linda, giving us the opportunity to meet in person, even though too many people have not taken that opportunity. We still have a good showing and we have an opportunity to speak in front of that audience. So hopefully when the COVID restrictions loosen up a little bit next month, maybe more people will show up and their rules and regulations will change a little bit. In the past, we've had pretty good attendance at this in-person event until we started doing our blended meetings. And that would be thanks to Rob Gunneman, our technology wizard.
Yeah.
He all these wonderful things with the magical snap of his fingers, and well, maybe not quite that, but he does it all, and it's pretty amazing. You get this thing on in person. The others that I need to thank, Sharon Kenty, who puts out the publicity that you see all the time and makes sure people are made aware of what we're doing at Speakers Bureau. We have Marilyn Nepke here will help us keep us in time. She's in the Zoom audience, but she will hold up some banners and so on to let people know if they've gone beyond the time. I haven't let her know too much, but we're in pretty good shape. I have to apologize for having lost. Richard Snyder was ill. He was one of the ones on the program, and I'm sure he's extremely disappointed not being able to speak tonight. But we do have a full program, and we'll thank Melissa Stacey for our number 2 person in our district who made arrangements for us to have this very, very special visitor. We have one guest I want to make sure I introduce, and that is the newly elected District 100 District Director and a member of District 12, Marsha Yamanaka. And we are ready to get into the program. Our June program is coming up. We will have a couple going for their qualified speaker. We expect, including our district leader to be Dr. Valencia. But right now we have a district leader who is going to give the first presentation. She's in person. So we all appreciate Roz Carter. I remember Roz being a member when she was a member and when she was a leader. So all the way through. Her speech, fate means something that is desired to happen, destined to happen. All right, glasses time, I guess. I have to admit. Our speaker uses the acronym FATE as fearless, ambitious, tenacious, and empowered. Fate brought out the next speaker into Toastmasters, which turned out to be her dreams into a vision that eventually became a reality. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster, qualified speaker, past district governor, and past regional advisor, Roz Carter. Roz?
Thank you. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay, we have a nice audience here, and I have to turn my head to take a look at the screen of all of the amazing Toastmasters here with us tonight. Hello, across the USA and perhaps the continent, right? Thank you for being here. Now, Tom introduced me and said, fate. As you can see right here on the podium, I have a different meaning for fate. Fate is like destiny. It's something that's going to happen. But who controls our destiny? You control yours, and I control mine. Nelson Mandela said, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it, the triumph over fear. Okay, courage. Took a lot of courage for me to drive through the canyon to get here and be in person, which I haven't done in about 3 years since the pandemic. I'm very comfortable in that little Zoom box, like some of our audiences. So I took a leap of faith and took courage, like the lion in The Wizard of Oz. And remember what the wizard told him? That courage was already inside of you. So what about fear and fate? How do they go together? I'm going to tell you how it impacted me, and hopefully you'll enjoy hearing about these 4 attributes that spell fate. How many of you are fearful? Every little thing scares you. Like a new speech, a new club officer position, a new job, or that interview that you've been putting in your head, I got to get this job. I've got to get this job. I know how difficult it is to be fearful. But let me tell you about fearless. I like to be around fearless people. I'm looking at some of you in the audience. You're fearless. You have guts. You're not afraid to try new things, right? I mean, Marcia's taking on a role of district director, and she's never done it before. Some of us have never stepped into a club officer or district officer position, but you have to be fearless and acknowledge that you have fear, because that's the first step. Acknowledge it and then confront it face on. Not that you don't have a little bit of fear in the back of your mind, because sometimes we need to have a little fear to keep us cautious. Like if you're in a dangerous situation, you want to be able to run or scream, but you don't want to stand there without defending yourself. But we're not talking about danger or dangerous conditions. We're talking about that safe, pleasant environment called Toastmasters, right? Do you fear when you walk into a meeting? Is your hand going up? Do you fear when you walk into a meeting? Oh, I don't want anybody to come up to me. I don't want them to ask me a table topics question. And if they ask me to give a speech, will I say, I'm not ready? I'll let you know. They put off things because they're not fearless. Taking on a division director position, John, a leader position in the district, Suzanne, and Tom, running the Speakers Bureau, and everything else you've done over the last 50 years in district leadership. But we still see Tom because he knows that being fearless allows him to continue to grow. And I like that in myself. I like being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And why is that? Because you're telling yourself, I can do it. I can do it. Say, I can. Shout it out. I can. Say it, I will. Because yes, you can. Does that sound familiar? We have things that we put off, procrastinate, and say someone else will do it. But once you say I can, and I heard all of you say it, now you have decreased the chance of being fearful. You are now getting closer to being fearless. What about a mentor? Do you think a mentor might help you shake off that uncomfortableness? They could be like the world champion who said, I see something in you. And you know, that was just in 2014. And we still say it, we still think it, we still believe that somebody sees something in us. Our first mentors were our parents. And then they told us to spread our wings and move out. Maybe we weren't ready. But I'm pretty sure that most of you were ready. When you were 18, you wanted to get a job, you wanted to go away to college. I went all the way to Montana, not just to get away from my parents because they were pretty strict, but because I wanted to feel that sense of independence. I wanted to be fearless. I wanted to take a few risks and see, can I do it? Okay, Suzanne, tell me one risk that you've taken that you didn't think you'd ever do, but you came out on the other side triumphant.
Walked a marathon.
Suzanne said she walked a marathon, was fearful, and walked out fearless. So think in your mind, what is it that I've been afraid of? And what I can now do to become fearless. And it's okay to fail. You know, we have this Toastmasters environment that said it's okay to fail because you're in this safe environment. But it's also because you're being taught to do certain things that improves your confidence and allows you to have this mindset. The mental exercise of breathing, thinking positive thoughts, and telling yourself, yes, I can. Telling yourself, I'm not going to give up because my destiny might take me over here, but being fearless, and the others I'll explain, allows you to stay put, stand tall, and be proud of everything you've achieved. Let's take a peek at the next one, ambitious. A is for ambitious. I see a lot of ambitious people here, and even on the screen. You know, those little busybodies that want to get involved with everything and say, come on, let's run a marathon with Suzanne. Let's go to the district conference or the international convention. Come on, don't be shy. You're going to learn something. Ambitious people are not afraid to take risk, not afraid to look at their goals and well define them. They don't just say, I'm going to graduate from college. Well, when? Where are you going? Do you have a game plan of the classes you're going to take towards the degree you want? Ambitious people lay it all out and they know exactly what's going to happen. Their roadmap to success, it's probably been written since they were in high school. Were you like that, Tom? He's doing this. That's a yes and a no. And that's okay, Tom, because look at how far you've come today. I said yes, no, many times. And it's okay. But I was ambitious because I surrounded myself with like-minded people, just like me or what I wanted to be with ambitious. What do you think is the opposite of ambitious, John? No clue? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Yes. And it's someone who says, I have no clue. Actually, the opposite of ambition is lazy. How many of you know lazy people? Maybe you were once a little lazy, said, no, I don't feel like doing that. Don't ask me to show up somewhere where I don't want to go. What about the Zoom screen that I referred to earlier? Don't ask me to drive in a car to go someplace that's so far away, I might get lost. You mean I can't wear my pajamas behind the Zoom screen? Yeah, I know some of you do that because you're comfortable. But take a look at the people that are ambitious. I'm sure you could think of many, especially in Toastmasters, but maybe on your job. They were looking for that promotion. They were looking to achieve a degree to help elevate themselves to another level, something that they've always wanted. When I earned my degree, it was just for me. It wasn't for anyone else. It wasn't even to get a promotion on the job. I wanted to finish my degree because it took me 30 years to complete. I went to college 1 year after high school, and then I became a family person. Don't judge those who want to stay home, raise their children, take care of their family and their spouse, and maybe even their parents are living with them. Everyone has priorities, but now, after everyone's grown up and out of the house, well, they weren't kicked out, but they got older, and it was time for them to move out. So I said, I wonder if I could go back to college. And I did. Another pat on the back, because that was a sense of achievement. I was ambitious enough to do it at an older age and still get my bachelor's degree. So I am so excited about that. And then someone had the nerve to ask me, so what about a master's or a doctorate degree? I said, whew, are you kidding? I did good getting my bachelor's, and I'm happy and satisfied with that. Ask me in 100 years if I need a master's degree, and I might have an answer for you. So now let's take a peek at tenacious. You know, those little people that are so determined to get everything done and it's got to be in certain order. Well, I'm kind of like that. I like things organized. I want everything to be done well. I'm not afraid to ask all the right questions. Well, they're right questions in my mind. But I think if I asked you or you or you some questions, you would probably have an answer for me. And if you didn't, hopefully you're resourceful enough to find the answer, right? So these tenacious people, there's an opposite meaning for them too. Anybody want to take a guess? Remember McFly in Back to the Future? What did the principal call him? A slacker. They're afraid. They're even weak-minded and tell themselves they can't, so therefore they won't. Tenacious people say, I can, I will, and I want to hang out with you. I see something in you. I want to grow and learn with you. Why wouldn't we want to hang around people like that? I don't want to hang around with slackers, people who just don't want to do anything for themselves, let alone have followers and grow others' potential. I want you to find something in me that I might be able to share with you, teach you, and I want to learn from you as well, because it works both ways, doesn't it? Sometimes we have to bounce things off of each other, and we never work alone in Toastmasters. We work as a team. And if you haven't tried the Pathways Educational Program path called Team Collaboration, I encourage you to try it. I finished that, and I was able to expand my knowledge and grow exponentially because I was working with teams on projects. I did not have to make every decision alone. And don't you dare try, Marcia. District director especially, don't work alone. Tom and Connie and Suzanne, you know already how much it means to work with others, because somewhere somebody's going to hear something or do something, and they're going to say, I want to do that too. So now you've branched into succession planning. Now you've shown people what you learned, the mistakes you made when you fell and got up, or were picked up by your team members and fellow Toastmasters, or at work, if you might have done something that was classified as failure. You had a mentor or a supervisor or a coworker that said, I can get that done for you, or I can show you a better way. Wouldn't you rather have someone show you how to do it than to do it for you? Like the slackers. The tenacious people take on that role because they're fearless and they are ambitious. So therefore, they're tenacious. And there is nothing wrong with being determined and persistent to get something done and be willing to do it to succeed. Now, let me tell you about this one, empowered. What do you think the opposite of empowered is? John?
Empowered, the opposite will be dependent.
Excellent. John said dependent. Empowered, he's got Google out. Okay, that's fine. That's why Google exists, right? To help us along, find the right words. Now, don't start talking about AI and Chat GPT. I'm not ready for that yet. Sometimes we have to be empowered in order to just make a simple step across the stage. We're not pushed or knocked over by those ambitious people to say, I could do it better, and don't even show you. Empowered is taking you to the next level. When I was in the district trio before, I met tons of people from around the world because we're in this wonderful international organization. You can't deny the friendships that are built over the years. And you see that gentleman that's international president this year? Would you believe, and Matt, I know you will remember, we were in the district trio together for our districts at the same time. It was called Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, now Club Growth. Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training, now Program Quality Director. And District Governor, wow. And now, when I look at Matt Kinsey, International President, he has gone above and beyond what I thought I could do. But he is a role model for me, because as he was moving up beyond the district level, I dipped my toes into being a region advisor. Now that's an exciting adventure. I'm the only one in District 12 who could say I'm a past region advisor. And I want everyone to think about it. The only requirement is that you were a past district director. Because you have to serve that extra year after you are in the district director role. One more year, immediate past, you got a few things you need to do to help your district. And after that, you can move on to region advisor, international director, and even international president, like my friend Matt Kinsey. I am so proud of Matt to see how far he's gone. And I know that there are many others aspiring to do that. Don't take yourself for granted. Don't cut yourself out of the loop of being fearless, ambitious, tenacious, and empowered. I hope that when you look at the word fate, F-A-T-E, you remember this. Just like you remember the Toastmasters promise. When you joined Toastmasters, you agreed and you promised that you would do everything that you are required to do as a Toastmasters member, support your club, engage in leadership activities, and bring along some friends and family to join, because membership is not just for one person or one club officer to be responsible for. Every member is responsible for building their club until they have run out of resources and they've tried everything. And sometimes a club may need to close. But the members are still Toastmasters and they can join other clubs. And Suzanne and I are experiencing some of that with one of our clubs. And it's kind of painful, isn't it, to see your club membership go? But we're in good company because there's other Toastmasters around the world and their clubs that are experiencing something similar. What can you do about it? Tell them to be fearless, ambitious, tenacious, and empowered. Tell them don't give up. Tell them to keep their Toastmasters promise. Tell them to look at leadership as an extension of themselves, since they graduated from high school or college, and now they're pursuing something for themselves to help others. Would you like to walk with me?
Yes.
I have someone here. Why don't you come down for a minute? And I believe everyone else in the room would probably walk with you. But we're going to walk hand in hand and teach others that, what club are you in?
Coffee and Toastmasters.
Coffee and Toastmasters member. Well, take a look at your member here. We're going to walk together through this journey And whatever you do, I will support you. We can have a mastermind group together and talk out all the details and the challenges about what each other is facing. And we'll help each other. We'll make each other accountable, right?
Yes,
Are you pursuing a leadership position?
yes, I am.
Which position?
Right now, I'm not for sure.
President,
Someone said you need to be club president. Who's that? Okay, consider it and we'll support you. And I'll be knocking on your door to make sure you're accountable for your step into leadership. Thank you so much for walking with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now, for the rest of you, don't be shy. John, I'm surprised you didn't run down here and knock me down. Or Tom. Tom, I have him to blame. Almost every step that I've taken in district leadership, it's his fault. Because he said kind words like, you could do it. I will show you the way if you will go the way with me. I want to surround myself with people like that and continue the journey. And by the way, being region advisor is awesome. Don't let me be the only one in District 12 to carry that title, okay? I'm going to see if I could help you become that when you work your way through district leadership, okay? You can, it's a promise. Anyone else have a goal or something they're afraid of or need a few more nudges to make fate live inside of you? Why did you raise your hand, Marcia? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing something that we work so hard to achieve. I believe you will not fail, Marcia, if you follow this. Does any of it resonate with you to tell yourself, I will not fail? I can do it. And guess what? There's a lot of other people that I could bring on board and walk with to get to the success level that I want to bring to my district. May I make a final suggestion? When you wake up every morning, some of us pray, some of us read affirmations. I can, I will, I want. There are no negative words in that. Push away the negativity, raise the positive, have that positive self-talk to yourself every morning, and go out and have a wonderful, productive day because fate is on your side. And Toastmasters is where leaders are made.
Thank you, Roz. I'll remember your teachers and remember to keep the faith. Roz has a special place in my memory because a number of years ago, when the district started the program. Whatever it is, anyway, we started the program to recognize outstanding members in each club. We started the first pins that were awarded each year, different from the year before. And they got a pin from their club. Their club got to choose their outstanding member. And Roz attended the first district conference that she attended. She attended to receive her recognition as the outstanding member of her club. And the rest is history. She went on from that. So it shows you how important recognition is to a member of a club. And you talked about being fearful. I was a representative of that. When I went to my first Toastmaster meeting, honest to God's truth, I was the one when Table Topics started. I was trying not to make eye contact with the table topics master because that was not my skill and I needed to overcome that. So that was what Toastmasters did for me and it made a big difference in my life and in my wife's life. And 40+ year Toastmaster. So, and she was the same way, just shy and quiet. Anyway. Let's go on to our next speaker is Esther Pathla. Esther has been a member of Toastmasters for 10 years. She has served in several leadership positions, including first as District 12 Director, the first District 12 Director and Pathways Ambassador. 2015-16, she led her team to District 12 Toastmasters to President's Distinguished for the first time in 20 years. She has founded and helped to start more than 30 Toastmaster clubs, mentored many members in the district and leaders in District 12 and other districts. She currently serves as the treasurer for Professional Women's Toastmasters Club. She's been awarded numerous awards in Toastmasters, including Area Governor of the Year, runner-up, Division Governor of the Year, the Lydia Boyd Leadership, Excellence Team, Excellence in Marketing, Spirit Award, Milestones Award, the Penny Cole Achievement Award for her service in both Toastmasters and in the community. And in all her leadership service, she has completed the term of President's Distinguished Area, Division, and District Director. She's grateful to Toastmasters that she can use some of those skills in her capacity as a business owner. She is the founder and president, CEO of Esther Pathla CPA, a professional corporation specializing in tax preparation and or tax resolution and business consulting of small businesses and individuals. She is certified public accountant, certified tax strategist, dedicated to helping small business owners and individuals design an optimal tax strategy to help them keep more of what they earned, because it's not how much you earn, it's how much you get to keep. Growing up in Johannesburg, South Africa, the city of gold, that's where she discovered her gold. Come along as she shares how District 12 got the gold with her speech, going for the gold, imagine the possibilities. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome. District Toastmaster qualified speaker, President's Distinguished, past District Director, Esther Pathla, and welcome to you, Esther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker's Bureau. Fellow Toastmasters, going for the gold, imagine the possibilities. What is that all about? Tom did allude to this. I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Johannesburg was called the City of Gold. Men would leave their homes to go mine gold in Johannesburg to be able to support their families. But on the other hand, I had a young gymnast in the house, and while competing, this is all I heard. They were all going for this gold. We even attended some gymnastics competitions, all because my young daughter wanted this. We were so fortunate that year, Toastmasters even introduced these medals. We were not even aware that they existed. Then the theme carried. Of course, it was the Olympic year. But today, we're going down this memory lane. I want us all to go down this memory lane. It's been a good 8 years. And today, even Facebook reminded me on the day of our conference, it was held May 2nd. And that's the day that I became the district director, on that day in 2015. But also on the other hand, with taking you down memory lane, I want you to think of the first day you walked into that Toastmasters club. Can you remember? Some of you, it's a month ago. For some of you, it's a year ago. And for some of you, it's many moons ago. Tom, talking to you. But with this, what pushed you to come in the door? Was it your coworkers, your boss? My favorite one is when you yourself discover that you need the program. That I call the gold, because nobody said go. I said, I'm going. What happened next? I was given an application. I decided I want this. Fellow Toastmasters, when you get that application, you were inducted. There is a Toastmasters promise on that application form. Can you unmute yourself and tell me some of what's on that application? Can you remember? Or have we gotten complacent like our international president just put in the chat?
Toastmasters promise.
Yes, Karen, what else is on there? There are about 10 items listed. Can you name one, somebody?
Who referred you?
Nope. It's a promise to you. What were you promising to yourself?
I promised to serve in an office or position when called upon.
Oh, I like that
Absolutely.
one. That's my favorite one. Number 6, Roger. Roger that, right? Anybody?
I do, Lois,
Yes, hi Lois.
to prepare for speeches to the best of my capability.
Awesome. That's the second one.
And Marilyn says to support other people.
Yep, that's
members.
you're right. Number 4, you provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations. That's where the support comes in, right? Well, we have. Oh, who's speaking?
This is Kimberly. I want to
Hi.
suggest one that says that I will attend whenever possible, as much as possible.
That is the first one, Kimberly. That is the reason you paid that money to join. And it's the number 1. You will attend regularly. Let me put them up here on screen for all of you.
Esther, Greg Scott.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, to act within Toastmasters core values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence.
I
When
see you. You are reading from somewhere. Yes, that's number 10. I was hoping, yes, they're right here on screen for all of us. All those 10, that's your Toastmasters promise to yourself when you are inducted. And I'm hoping when your VP membership inducts your members, they get to say this. It's not a shortcut, so that that new member knows what they're in for and they can live up to this promise. Now, fellow Toastmasters, this is where your journey begins. As soon as you are done with this application, you sit down with your mentor. Your VP education now gets you to sit down with a mentor. You either choose one or we assign you one in our clubs. You get started with your icebreaker speech. You do the meeting roles. The less demanding ones first is an counter, grammarian, timer. You move on to your speech number 2, and eventually you finish level 1, since we're now in pathways and working in levels. But here's the favorite part. And this is where I always talk about humanizing our club program. Once you finish that level 1, what happens? Anybody? What happens once you complete your level 1? What happens?
You receive a certificate and go to level 2.
Yes, but see, Anna, that is your accomplishment as your individual member, but who else benefits?
The club.
It's a win-win, a double benefit, and many of us never realize this. You have just contributed to your club's success without even noticing it by just focusing on you. So fellow Toastmasters, as we progress through the journey, our journey in Toastmasters, there's definitely a double win in everything that we go through. That's your journey. 60% of what we do in our clubs has to do with us, individual members. What we came to do, what we paid for. Your levels, accomplishing your speaking and your leadership goals. That's 60%. Once the program works for you, what happens? Many of us, when we go out, you have a restaurant that you like, you start enjoying it. What do you do when you like that restaurant?
You go back.
You go back, or what you do, Matt, you recommend it to others and others come, right? You share, sharing is caring. Same thing with Toastmasters. You've gone through this 60%, your educational awards. My goodness, I'm growing. I can now give a presentation. I know how to walk the stage. I know how to do some vocal variety. I can do a presentation at work. Hey, friend, you've got to experience this with me. Our founder said it best. Let us share the benefits we have gained with others. You invite your friends. You don't keep Toastmasters a secret. This is where we move on to the 20% of what we achieve in the clubs, our membership. We invite others to come in and join us. Once the others have joined us, in every organization, we need some leaders. We know we are all leaders who are capable of leading, but you know the chaos, right? Somebody has to be in charge. We cannot all be in charge. Therefore, in Toastmasters, we have those lucky sevens that do become our leaders that we look to for direction. And our leaders are provided with some kind of training. But did you know that those skills are transferable? When you hold a leadership skill in Toastmasters, oh, I jumped forward, but it's okay. Those skills are transferable. What does a club president transfer to? On a much less scale, what can you equate a club president to? Fellow Toastmasters, are you there? That's a CEO in a company. If you can be trusted with little, you can be trusted with more. What about VP education? That's your human resources. Whatever the VPE gets to do, for some of you who have worked in HR, human resources, that's that. VP membership, we have to get this one. Come on.
Sales.
Sales, marketing, VP public relations. What is that all about? Publicity, branding. We're all on social media on a daily basis. We're somehow rebranding ourselves as individuals, but also in Toastmasters, you take on that role. I've seen several members from my club who became VP public relations, and all of a sudden now they know how to do this, and that. And then somebody now owns a business in that scenario. And I go, wow, all from being in Toastmasters, taking the officer role, and all of a sudden now you have a side gig. Fellow Toastmasters, these skills are transferable. Your treasurer, that's money management. Your secretary, that's your executive assistant. Your sergeant at arms. You get to keep club property, company property. Do not forget that those are your transferable skills. The officers, of course, a better trained officer is able to do that job. As a CPA, I'm required to take continuing education every year. I may know what I'm doing, but I feel better knowing that I am up to date with the new laws. And when a client comes in, I feel confident that I've just obtained this training. I know that even if I was not required to do the training, I would do it because it makes me a better professional. This applies to you, fellow Toastmasters. When you are an officer, you attend your training, you are better equipped to go back to your clubs and do a better job. I know you'll say, I've been doing this role for a while. I know what I'm doing. No, it's like a good book. You read it today, you put it aside. The next time you come back to that book, you discover, oh my goodness, did I skip this page the first time? No, you realize that repetition creates that whole reinforcement. The next one, it's all about you now reinvesting in yourself. You joined the program. You cannot just leave just because you know how to prepare one speech. No, you keep on reinvesting. Like many organizations, we belong in professional organizations. We keep renewing because there's more. I want to be a better person than I want to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday. You continue on. When we elect our officers, don't forget to put them on so that we know who these leaders are by submitting them. That, in a nutshell, fellow Toastmasters, that's humanizing the Distinguished Club programs. The Distinguished Club program. It's not just numbers, it's the human beings that sit on a chair every week in our clubs, or maybe once a month, depending on how many times your club meets. If we can see the Distinguished Club program as that, it starts with you. This is how District 12 achieved its goal. It started with one member walking in the door, progressing through every single little step, working on themselves, contributing to the club. It built that foundation. There's a new requirement for membership. I think Toastmasters has made it really easy for us here. You can either do your 20 members or a mere net growth of 3. These 2 years, that's all you need. Do you know 3 friends that can join your club? Every member brings 1. It's doable, fellow Toastmasters. Once the club has done its part, of course, we have another important piece to the puzzle. This individual serves as the liaison between districts and clubs. They're required to do 2 visits, but that second goal there, it says deposit before you withdraw. I always encourage our area directors, before you come in bearing papers and asking me to do anything, come and say hello first. Let me get to know you. It's like going to a bank. You can't just start putting in your card and withdrawing, knowing very well that you did not put money in there. When you come and introduce yourself, I now can say, oh, hi, Anna, how are you? And Anna can even do better. As a new officer, she comes in and installs us to make it official. We feel special. The president is holding the gavel, passing it on, passing it on, passing it on. We feel official. That is the whole foundation of how things exist in Toastmasters. This pyramid shares everybody. People join the club. This is where the club is. It may seem like it's at the bottom, but without this foundation, that is our foundation. There is no area, there is no division, and there's definitely no district. All we do starts at the club level, and it starts with a member. I know not all of our clubs can be as successful. Just like in life, we get ailments there, we get challenges there. When we are sick, we go and see a doctor, we go for a health checkup. In Toastmasters, our health checkup is our moments of truth. If your club is not doing well, they cannot achieve that distinguished status. What do you do? It's time to assess. First impressions. Were the guests greeted when they first walked into that door? Do you have a guest book where you can follow up once they've put their name there? Do you have a meeting room that is easily accessible? Are guests invited to address the club? How did they find you? And the best one, invite them to join. It's not pressure. It's saying, I'm welcome to hear your ideas. I want you to be one of us, and there's something here for you. The second one is membership orientation. When your members join, don't just dump them with pathways. They need that mentor. They need to be oriented into the program. They need to be assigned a mentor. You need to also assess, why are they here? This is where Pathways is this beautiful program where when you take the assessment, it really spills out what's closer to your heart. Fellowship and variety. Are you friends with your fellow Toastmasters outside of the club? Or do you just say, oh, the meeting's done, I'm going home. I'll see you next week. No, build those bonds, enjoy each other's company, have fun with each other. Program planning, do you have agendas at your meetings? Do your meetings begin and start on time, or do you just have a social club? People come in, they walk out, you don't even know what happened to that guest. Oh, so-and-so was here to see us. Oh, they left, you pointing them as they leave. No, take time to spend with those fellow members, with those brand new guests. Membership strength, I talked about it. You need that 20 or at least a net growth of 3. Retention, that's very important. Don't only be looking for new members. Let's retain the members that we have. What are we doing to make sure that the program is fresh, the program is really enjoyable? The final one, achievement and recognition. Tom Jameson talked about it. Recognition equals motivation. When your members achieve their awards, do you brag about them? Do they bring their certificates? Do you take pictures? I love my professional women Toastmasters Club. Our public relations, our VP public relations is ready with her phone. Stand there next to the banner. We're all posing. And she's ready to put us on Facebook. She's ready to put us on LinkedIn. She's ready to put us on Instagram. Ready to make sure that our club is known. And the best one recently, the area director visited us and gave us a far exceeding expectations. Do you want to be part of a far exceeding expectations club? I do. I don't want to belong to a mediocre club. I don't do mediocre. Sorry, right, Roz? We want all of us to succeed. Fellow Toastmasters, that's at the club level, but at the district level, what did we really do that year to achieve President's Distinguished and really go for this gold? This is the book and the secret behind it. I started reading this book earlier on, used it in my business. It served me very well. But I discovered the principles that are in here can easily be applied to Toastmasters. When I looked at the district leadership handbook, I discovered it's already divided in 12-week increments. All I have to do, put the team together and really apply this in those 12-week increments. Why the 12-week year? Let's address the what, the why, the how, the when, and the when. What is the 12-week year? It's an execution system. Planning is fun, but you must execute. Some of the fun words that I love to use with execution is results. Are you focused? I want to see some kind of accomplishment. Implementation. The word done, check mark, green, complete. Action. Productive, not busy. Whenever I talk to somebody and say, I've been so busy, and I go, oh, please, that is my pet peeve. Let's say productive. Replace it with productive. Why the 12-week year? Let's analyze this and how District 12 really got to implement this. Get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. We are redefining the year. Most of us think when we have the year, we still have time, we can cruise along. Oh, it's okay, I'll do it next month. The 12-week year allows us to throw the annual plan. It creates a healthy sense of urgency to say, I've got to do this now because tomorrow I have better things to do. But the most important one, you avoid the overwhelm, having to do a lot at the end. Here are some principles, the fundamental elements of this book. You need a vision. Of course, planning is important. You look at your process control. You have to measure what you're doing. How are you using your time? Accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment. Let's go through each one of them. These three principles, accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment. We'll start with vision. Your vision should be big enough that it makes you feel at least a little bit uncomfortable. What was uncomfortable for myself as a district director and scary? The words President's Distinguished District 12, 2015, 2016. These words were on every flyer, and every time I saw them, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm really saying these words, and I'm encouraging our members to say these words. And the funny part is, whenever I showed up at events, people will start saying them back to me. And that's what I loved. I'm like, oh, the message is clear, District 12. We are going for the gold. Imagine the possibilities. Isn't it fun when people can repeat what you are saying without you even saying it? The planning process, what happened? The plan structure. You have to make the goal specific and measurable. State it positively. Yes, President's Distinguished District 12. That's what we want to accomplish. Ensure it's a realistic stretch. You assign accountability. All of us are accountable. And let it be time bound. We knew we had 6:30, 2016 to achieve the goal. Therefore, it had to happen in a timely manner. What was the process that we used? Weekly routine. What did we do? Weekly meetings. We used what we call Scrum. On top of the 12-week year, we broke it down. The PQD, Program Quality Director, Anjanette, myself, and our Lab Growth Director, David Carpenter, met on a weekly basis. With Scrum, the only items you focus on is, what are you working on? What are your challenges? What did you accomplish? That's how we were able to help each other. And you need to score that week. How did we measure? We had our lead and lag indicators. Most of you know me, I love the dashboard. That's how I measure everything. The dashboard does not lie, unless of course there's some errors and you can fix them with Toastmasters International. But look at the next point, 85% score. The 12-week year is only asking you for a B. It's not even requiring an A, just a B. Acquire 85%. Can you live with a B? I know you overachievers out there, you want A, but let's settle for this B for now. You need your feedback. That's how we grow. The progress, again, we go back to the dashboard for progress. How did we use our time? Blocking is very important. We had strategic blocks, 3 hours once a week. Buffer blocks, 30 minutes. This is where you check your emails. Did a member send me an email? Did an area director send me an email? Is there an issue? Breakout blocks, 3 hours once a month. These are our DEC meetings. What are we accomplishing? Accountability. Ownership, not punishment. If you can own something and say, this is mine, I want to do my best, that's not punishment. But what exactly is ownership? If you want different results, then you need to be willing to do differently and do different things. Something has to change. It's like saying insanity, doing the same thing over and over, hoping to get different results. No, things have to change in order for you to get that ownership. The commitment. This was a personal promise, the individual goal. Each one of you as members, you had your own individual goals. As a district director, I had my own individual goals. The titles were changing that year, moving from governor to director. And I thought that would be a good time to really have District 12 on that stage. It became a personal goal, but I could not achieve a personal goal without every single one of you, the member. You need to have a buy-in. You need to be part of this goal. Go public with it. You've got to declare it. Again, President's Distinguished. Those are my scary words, and we got to share in the scariness. Another favorite part, greatness in the moment. As many of you know, athletes don't just start training today and hope for a gold and go to the Olympics. No, they start early on, they train. Greatness is not achieved when the result is reached, but rather long before that, when you choose to do the things that you know you need to do. You can't start June 1 hoping for a President's Distinguished District on June 30th. You can't, as a club, on June 1st say, oh, we're going, let's go, let's do this. No, things have to be done holistically, progressing throughout the year. And the program, that's how it becomes enjoyable. Ralph C. Smedley, again, said it best. We learn best in moments of enjoyment. We don't want to make Toastmasters a job and a chore and beating people up. No. What are you here for? I'm here for myself. And as a result, I'm here for you. We're starting to enjoy each other's company. When this is a day in and day out routine, you make it your weekly thing, weekly task, you work through your time blocks. Definitely for me, what I've realized is it's applicable in every area of your life. When you feel better at work, when you feel better at home, when you feel better in your health, it pours in other areas. Now we're coming to the home stretch of District 12. Going for the gold, imagine the possibilities. How did we get to do this? Most of the time at Toastmasters Leadership Institute, I hear we give officer training, we talk about club success plan. And of course, Toastmasters International talks to the district leaders. You need to submit your district success plan by September 30th. But in between, the division directors and area directors, most of the time are not asked to do their own success plan. And what I've always said is, how can you walk out and tell a club that I want to see your club success plan when you, an area director, did not create one? As a leader, you lead by example. You cannot ask of others what you are incapable of doing. That year, everybody was asked to prepare one and a stretch goal. President's distinguished club, area, division, and district. All of us were in this together. Of course, the planning is all around the mission of the district. We build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. The journey began. Now let's break it down for District 12, how the plan transpired. The critical success factors, there's 3 of them. You have new clubs, you have membership payments, and you have distinguished clubs. For District 12, we said 1 new club per division per 12 weeks. We have 5 divisions, division A, B, C, D, E. That meant 5 new clubs per 12 weeks. What does 5 new clubs per 12 weeks mean? It means 20 new clubs that year. But we had a stretch goal. We had 26 areas. Therefore, our stretch goal was 1 new club per area, and every area director was asked to do that. This was my wish. No club loss. We know that's not possible. But you have to put some unrealistic wishes somewhere and think, let's hope for the best. And I'm sad, Anna, I saw the very first lap that we charted that year that set us on a trail to a President Distinguished District. It closed yesterday, but it's okay. It had its run. People grew out of it. I don't believe there's ever a lost skill. Whatever skill you acquire, you can use it somewhere else. And thank you for that, Anna. I want to acknowledge that. We moved to membership payments. How did we accomplish membership payments? Open houses quarterly. It wasn't a hit and miss just because our clubs were not doing well. It was planned. Every quarter, we held open houses, people got incentives. And you know why? If you start somewhere in July, August, September, that member who joins as a brand new member, that equal to 3 members if they stay the whole year. If you have another open house in the time frame of October to March, new members join, they equal to 2. You can do a speech craft. The program is already tailored for you. It's done for you. That's our Toastmasters program. That's how you gain and increase your membership. The distinguished clubs, we had an incentive, 5 distinguished club program goals with goal number 7 as a requirement by December 31st. This is just a sample of, we created some fun competition for our area directors. I love a friendly competition. It keeps people on their toes. When you see your neighbor succeeding, you say, oh, let me come along with you, neighbor. Let's play along. And it creates a nice fellowship among everybody because we all want to be successful. And our area directors, that's how they measure themselves. Division directors also measure themselves. We recognize people at every DEC. The process control out of the 12-week year program, Of course, we did our weekly plans, our scorecard, but we had tools. At the district level, we have the district leadership handbook. At the club level, you have your club leadership handbook. That should be your Bible, that should be your tool. Work in teams, Ross talked about teams. At the district, we have current and past district leaders. At the club level, you have your club officers who have served in that role. If you're a new club, of course, you'll be assigned a mentor who will assist you in acclimating to the Toastmasters program. District level, again, you have your region advisor. Sorry, Ross, you're the only one. Now here's a scorecard. This is how we measured ourselves. Some of you who were part of that group, you probably remember this. And today we're reminiscing about that year. You received this in an email. These are the things that we measured. We measured officer training. Because it was August, we needed to make sure that officers are trained. We were tracking new clubs that were chartered. We were tracking new club leads. The reason we did this, every division was assigned a color. Some divisions may not have been successful in chartering a club, but at least they had some leads. This was to say not all is lost. We're successful in other areas, therefore, let's keep working. By the end of August, we had achieved 91% of officers trained. Our officers wanted the training. September now, we were tracking something else. We're done with officer training. Now we're tracking dues renewals. The beauty of the 12-week year program allows us to stay on top of what is it that we're required to do at specific timeframes. Again, we measured the clubs. Oh, sorry, the divisions, but the divisions, of course, measured the clubs. By the end of September, our goal was to have 5 clubs, 1 club per division. We were able to achieve 4 out of 5. We were happy. Remember the 12-week year, a B is good enough, 85%, we go for that. November, we focused on area director visits. The goal was to make sure that those visits are complete before Thanksgiving. You want to be with your family. You don't want to receive a call in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, right? Where are your area director visits? No, we wanted you to be able to enjoy that. All areas got their visit. Out of sight, out of mind. You are the liaison between the clubs and the district. 100% club visits. That was the goal. Of course, we followed the same program when the new year started. We had an Olympian visit us. We humanized the Distinguished Club program. We called people up on stage. People could see, oh, these are my club members. We celebrated new clubs. And now with Toastmasters, you know, membership, we have 3 programs. In September, August to September, we have the Smedley. February to March, we have Talk Up Toastmasters. And then right now in May and June, we have Beat the Clock. Towards the end of the year, we brought in Lance Miller to be our keynote speaker. One of the items that I enjoy about his talk, he talks about owning your club. Sometimes you'll hear members trying to blame the district, or maybe they'll blame Toastmasters, but not realizing that people walk in and they join a club. Are you creating an environment that's welcoming? Are you creating an environment that says, I want to be a member of this club? And people left with that knowledge, wanting to do more. Now the scores started coming in. We started achieving, by June 21st, we had achieved the membership goal and District 12 was distinguished. But if you can see inside these bubbles, there is nowhere where we're talking about this distinguished thing. We're happy, but what's the focus? President's distinguished, right? By June 27th, we had achieved President's distinguished with the membership goal. Now, what about distinguished clubs? What we said was just 8 more distinguished clubs to reach President's distinguished. That remained the focus. That remained the scary vision that we had. On building new clubs, 3 more clubs remain. By June 30th, the year closes. We have our goal in the stool, in the 2 angles, but the 1 stool has not been achieved, right? Distinguished clubs, we got it. We got the payments. We just need 2 more paid clubs for our president. We had the club, but it had not shown up on our dashboard by the time the year closed. Do you know what happened? The calls I got from members, everybody was like, I have never seen such excitement from people. Well, 702, Toastmasters published. District 12 was President Distinguished, and we got our goal. We were in Washington, D.C. Some of you can recognize your faces right there if you were there. District 12 got the gold, President's Distinguished District 12. But all we had to do, fellow Toastmasters, there was nothing here that the district did. The district was just cheering you on. The simplicity of this, you individual members discovered your gold, and it became a ripple effect, starting with you, the club, then to the area, and then the division and districts. Our final score to wrap up, District 12 was President's Distinguished, 5 divisions, 3 out of 5 were President's Distinguished. Out of 26 areas, 16 were distinguished and 3 were President's Distinguished, 3 select and 10 distinguished. We had 29 President's Distinguished labs, 12 select and 17 distinguished. This is where we get to reminisce again. It never gets old to say thank you, because without you, it's not possible. Were there challenges? Absolutely. There's nothing easy in this world. Every day we walk in with challenges. These are the different faces of that year. The phone would ring like, can I just switch it off? Tired, weariness. Sometimes you don't have the answers, but always you pump yourself up. I can do this. But you, the members, you provided that support, and self-care was very important. Is it too late to achieve this? No, it's doable. Let's turn impossible into I'm possible. All we have to do is execution. Make the dashboard your friend. Fellow Toastmasters, one of my favorite quotes was when Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as the first democratically elected president of South Africa and the very first Black president of South Africa. This quote was by Marianne Williamson. It reads, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. You playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us, in these Zoom boxes inside that room at Jerry Petty's. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I have my light from that year. Remember, Anna? I still have my gold, and it's still shining. Fellow Toastmasters, can you imagine the possibilities? What is your gold? I still have my gold. Mr. Speaker's Bureau's Chair.
Outstanding presentation. By the way, just so all of you know this applies to all levels of leadership. You're an area governor, the club president, whatever it is. Take to get some of these suggestions and it will help you to achieve your goals too. I think it's time for me to make a public admission, Esther, to you. I don't know that I ever said this to you. When you announced at the beginning of your year that you were going to go for that goal and you're going to be President's Distinguished, I have to admit, some of us senior members of Toastmasters looked around and looked at each other and said, well, all right, that's what they always say when they step up there. They're always going to go on and achieve these wonderful goals. And well, let's see. And lo and behold, something that hadn't ever been done in 20 years was accomplished, which the lesson there is because it hasn't been done doesn't mean you can't do it.
Nelson
And so
Mandela
with
said
that-
it best. It always seems impossible until it's done.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, I think it's time for us to go on to our next speaker, the one many of us have been waiting to hear. And that is Dr. Valencia Jones will be introducing our sitting international president, Matt Kinsey. So Dr. Valencia, would you go ahead with that introduction?
Thank you very much, Tom. Great evening, International President, past international directors, past region advisors, past district governors, district leaders, incoming district leaders, club leaders, Toastmasters, and fellow guests. Our speaker tonight has been a Toastmaster for the last 20 years. In 2014, he failed to win election to the board of directors. Yet 8 years later, he was inaugurated as our international president. To get there, he had to work hard to improve himself and to apply a lot of lessons. However, there are some lessons that stood out more than others. Tonight, he will share some invaluable lessons as he speaks about from Kuala Lumpur to Washington, D.C. Matt Kinsey, our Toastmasters International President, will be speaking from Innovative Planning, Level 5, Prepared to Speak Professionally. His time tonight is 10 to 15 minutes, plus Q&A as time permits. Brace yourself. Get ready to take some copious notes as we hear wisdom, experience, and time-tested lessons by Matt Kinsey. Let's give a warm round of applause. And my educator round of applause. Some Zoom reactions and an amazing District 12 Speakers Bureau Toastmasters welcome to Matt Kinsey as he approaches the virtual lectern. Matt?
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And the chair asked me to extend my time, so it will be 20 to 30 minutes for the timer. So everyone's aware of that. As the introduction said, in 2014, I stood for election to the board of directors, something that past international director Greg Scott did successfully, something that past international director Karen Lucas did successfully. And I didn't make it. And it had me questioning things for a few hours. You know, have you ever lost an election? Well, in 2014, that was the first time I'd ever lost an election for anything. It was the first time that my blind spots had gotten in the way of accomplishing something that I wanted to accomplish. And I had to examine that and discover what had happened. Now, within an hour after the election, I had members coming up to me and saying, Matt, please run again. And by the time we got to dinner and the president's inauguration, I had made up my mind I was going to run again. So I took a couple of days that I was planning to go to board orientation for and, went around Malaysia a little bit. And then I got home and I started making phone calls right away. Started calling people, what could I have done differently? And the advice I got was really pretty poor. I mean, well, Matt, you just ran into a better candidate. Matt, the two best candidates were in your region and you just didn't get enough votes. Like I wanted to hear that. Okay, that didn't really help me. A year later, I submitted my paperwork again to run. This is a 2-year time cycle for when you run. So I submitted my paperwork to start the process again. And I called some of these same individuals back, said, hey, just want to let you know, I'm running again. Do you have any advice? And boy, did the answers change. All of a sudden, those people who said, well, Matt, you just ran a good campaign, said, well, Matt, here's some things I think you should have done differently. Or here's some things I think got in your way. And it was eye-opening. And what I realized from that, more than anything else, was that reflection requires separation. See, there were two things going on. One is I was still too emotionally connected to the loss. And I think the people I was talking to understood that. They understood that I was still feeling some pain over the loss. And so emotion is great. I mean, emotion drives behavior. But when you're trying to reflect and you're trying to figure out what went wrong and what could go better, that is a logical process. And emotion gets in the way, especially if you're holding on to pain or anger or fear, as our earlier speaker spoke about tonight. The other thing was that people need to process. Now, some of us are very quick processors. Some people are more deliberate processors, and it's not a sign of intelligence at all. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with how people process information in order to feel that they've got the most information that they need to make a decision. And everybody needs to process. And people had a chance themselves to think about what I had done. So what I'm going to share tonight are some of the barriers that I had to overcome in my pursuit. Now, some of you will look at these barriers and go, wow, I'm surprised. Some of you will look at these barriers and go, yeah, I've experienced that as well. And some of you may not relate to all of the barriers. In fact, no one, I don't think, will relate to all of the barriers. But I think most of you will relate to at least one, to give it some thought about how you might be able to apply this in your life. So let's go with that first one, which was the first thing I heard. And it was a pretty painful one. Matt, who are you? What do you mean? I spent hours talking to people on the phone. I spent days doing interviews with people, 15 minutes after 15 minutes. What do you mean you don't know me? What do you mean, who am I? What they said was, Matt, we can tell you're a smart guy, but we don't know who you are inside. And when I examined it, one of my good friends was a district director in Melbourne, Australia, and she'd actually worked on my campaign. And I called her up and I said, Catherine, you know, people are telling me I've got this barrier up and they don't understand and that I push people away. Do I do that? And now this is one of my best friends. She's like, oh my, yes, you do. And I was like, but we connected so quickly. She goes, Matt, I saw something in you that attracted me to create a friendship with you. Matt, most people won't do that. They won't put in the effort. And when I examined it, it turned out to be something that happened to me in high school when I was 16 years old, that allowed me or caused me to create a barrier between me and other people to protect myself emotionally. Or at least that's what I thought I was doing. But what I was doing instead was preventing people from seeing who I am. Some people call it transparency. Some people call it vulnerability. And we all need some barriers up, even from our most intimate partners. But the more you can let people in to see who you are, the better they will respond to you. That was my first powerful lesson. So your most precious currency is your authenticity. When people know who you are and they perceive that your actions come out of who you are and that you're not trying to be somebody else, more of them want to be around you. And when somebody doesn't, it doesn't bother you as much because you can really sit there and go, you know what, and I've done this. I'm a pretty good guy and they're missing out and I'm okay with that. But I have enough people who love me and care about me that I'm going to be just fine without their added attention. I don't need it. Would I like it? Sure, I'd like it, but I don't need it. So if you read the article about me in the August news, in the August magazine, you may have read that I'm a cyclist. I've done over 260,000 miles, 400,000 kilometers in my lifetime. And one of my jobs was on our racing team was a lead out man. Now, if you've ever watched the Tour de France, the lead out man is not the guy who wins the race. The lead out man is the guy who comes up to about 500, 400 meters to go and peels off. So the sprinter only has to sprint that last 30 seconds or so to win the race. I'm coming down a home stretch and I'm in perfect position. My sprinter is 1 inch off my back wheel. I am right in the center. We have just a slight lead. I've got enough room to peel out, and out of the corner of my eye, Dr. Val, I saw the most gorgeous woman I have ever seen in my life. And I glanced at her. And 35 riders went down that day, including my entire team. Now, afterwards, my team sprinter, who's also the team coach, came looking for me, as you can imagine. Picked ourselves up and he's looking for me. Now, he was the only way to describe him is he was a California surfer. He was like, yo, dude, what happened there? And I was like, I don't know, it's in position, just went down. He's like, dude, you got distracted. And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, man, it happens. I just got one question for you. Was she worth it? Now, here's a woman I saw out of the corner of my eye for a split second, and my distraction took me and my team out of action. See, distraction equals out of action. And as a leader and as a candidate, the first time I got distracted, I started chasing shiny balls instead of doing the core work that needed to be done. I started trying to come up with fancy ideas about how to solve Toastmasters problems instead of connecting with members on a real level. See, I wasn't focused on the right actions. I wasn't focused on the mission. I was focused on what would happen after I accomplished the mission. And as leaders, we have to be careful about that as well, because distraction does take you out of action. Do you react or respond? And what do I mean by that? So a quick poll. All right, I'm going to be a little dangerous here, but data science tells me I'm probably right. So I'm going to ask the women in the audience an answer. If you go to your significant other and say, I have a problem, and you start a conversation, how many of you want your partner to solve that problem? Raise your hands. Okay, well, I can't see what's in the room, but online, I'm not seeing a single hand up. Now, men, if your significant other comes to you and says, I have a problem, how many of you want to solve that problem? All right, and if you're not raising your hands, that's okay. I'm not going to call on you, but I would just ask you to question your intentions. Now, what science tells us, what research tells us, is that on average, women aren't looking for a solution. They're looking for someone to listen to them and to empathize with them. If they want a solution, they are going to go to their other female friends. Right? Yeah, okay, I see some of you nodding. They're going to go to their other female friends. They're not going to come to you in most cases. They want somebody to listen to them. So this creates a dichotomy. Well, the same thing is true as a candidate for the board of directors and Toastmasters, and maybe even for club and district. See, what I was doing is I was reacting. A district would come to me and describe a problem, and I would give them a solution. And I thought that was what I should be doing. Hey, Matt, we're having a problem with this. Oh, well, here's something that should work for you. Oh, okay, great. But what they wanted was this. They wanted listening in the middle. And they didn't necessarily want a solution. They want it to be heard. And that's a response instead of a reaction. So the point is does the question require an answer or a conversation? In politics, in Toastmasters politics, most of the time it requires a conversation. So what do I do now? If someone comes to me, and I don't do this as a smart aleck way, but if someone comes to me and they have a question, they're trying to solve a problem, I start asking a lot of questions. Tell me about what you've tried. Most important question, what's your desired outcome? You know, if you tell me you're having a problem with an area director, well, are you trying to get them to correct their behavior? Are you trying to get them to resign? Or are you just want them out no matter what? Well, those require different solutions to get your desired outcome. And if I don't know what the desired outcome is, I can't possibly give you any advice. What have you tried? Have you ever started giving someone advice and like, well, I tried that, we tried that. Now, sometimes that's an excuse, but sometimes that's the real situation. They've tried exactly what you're suggesting and it didn't work. And you look like a fool, or at least partially one. So the question is, does it require an answer? And then if I feel it's appropriate at the end, I'll actually ask, are you looking for some advice? And if they are, then I'll provide it. And I just had this happen a couple of weeks ago with the district director. She asked me for some time, had a conversation. She told me what's going on. I said, would you like some advice? She said, yes. I gave her some advice. She chose not to follow it. She chose to take a different path. I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm not offended that she chose a different path. It worked out for her. And that path actually came from some questions I'd asked her earlier. She told me later that the question that she answered one way the first time she thought about it and came up with a different answer, that it wasn't worth the fight and she was going to let it go. Now, this was the important one. I called past international president Pat Johnson. Some of you have met her, some of you know her. Fabulous lady. She was the chair of the ILC in 2014 that had decided not to nominate me for office. Rightly so, based on what I understand now. And I called her and I said, Pat, after I got some general things, I said, Pat, you've observed me for a while. Do you have any specific advice for me? And she said, well, Matt, you know, in my experience, many candidates for the board, they're thinking and leading with their head instead of their heart. And I'm taking notes, being a good little listener and trying to get those lessons. And all of a sudden she goes, Matt, put your pencil down. I'm talking to you. You need to get out of your head. And guess what taking notes is getting in your head. Okay. She goes, you need to get out of your head and into your heart. Now, I'll be honest with you. I told this story in front of Pat Johnson one time, and she came after me. She came up to me, not after me, but she came up to me later and said, Matt, I wasn't that harsh with you. And I'm like, Pat, it makes a better story. Just go with it. So the question is, are you leading with your head? Results, objectives, strategies. That's what I was doing. That's the household I was raised in, that you solve problems with your head. Okay. Academic success meant more than any of my other successes. All right. And my successes in life had come with my brain power, exercised in an academic way. So that's my fallback when I was under stress. And leading with your head is results and objectives and strategies. And it's important as a leader that we lead with our head. Esther just talked about some aspects of leading your head. They knew what their objectives are. They knew what the results were. They knew what the strategies were. And then they had to execute those, which is where leading with your hands comes in. It's doing the work with the team, leading by example, task-oriented, high standards. Esther talked about that as well earlier tonight, how they had high standards. They had an 85% threshold. Are the tasks getting done? Is everyone doing their part? Is she setting an example as a district director? Or are you leading with your heart? People, relationships, and connection. Now, the best leaders do all three. I know people who've worked on Esther's team, and they have a good relationship with her today. They still enjoy being around her. That tells me that she took care of this aspect of her leadership as well. But what does this really mean? So let me just give you the best example I can. Several years ago, I was at a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, led by the late, great Bob Proctor, the Toronto Tornado. If you don't know who he was the producer behind the movie The Secret. Okay, fabulous guy. And over lunch, the MC comes up to us and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, over lunch, I want you to go out on the streets of Scottsdale, Arizona, find a stranger and take them to lunch, and then come back and tell us about it." Now there's 800 people in the room, descending on the streets of Scottsdale, Arizona. And I am sitting in front of this restaurant trying to get a stranger to go to lunch with me. And it was not going well. Now, those of you who know me know I am a get her done kind of guy. If you give me a task, I'm going to get it done. And I walk up to people and say, "Hey, I'd like to take you to lunch." And they're like, "No, no, no," and some of them running away. I don't know if they thought I was asking them on a date, trying to get them to sell Amway or convert them to my religion, but I was frustrated. And I had a task I needed to get done, and it wasn't getting done. And that, frankly, that is unacceptable. And I sat down on a bench and I said, "This is ridiculous. I can't get anyone to go to lunch with me. I'm going to fail at this task." Then I heard this voice start going in the back of my head. I'm trying to ignore it, but all of a sudden I realize it's my mother's voice. And you got to listen to your mom, right? And what I heard was, "Matt, in whatever you do, find your purpose." Now, I know that's different from what Simon Sinek and everybody else says about finding your purpose and then going out and do. No, she was telling me, you're doing something. Why are you doing it? What is the purpose behind it? And so I decided I wanted to take a veteran to lunch. I know many women have served, but in that moment, I pictured an older gentleman, kind of balding white hair like Greg Scott there, and very wise face, kind of like Greg Scott there. A cane, I don't think Greg's got a cane, and a ball cap. And I heard the word Arizona, but I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. I stood up, took a couple of steps, and approaching me, Esther, was exactly the gentleman I saw. A little better looking than Greg. White hair, a wise face, a cane, and a ball cap that said USS Arizona. And I walked up to him. I said, "Sir, would you please do the honor of going to lunch with me?" And he looked at me for a second. He goes, "Why?" Well, this is a good start. He's not running away from me. And I said, "Well, I noticed your cap. I made a decision a few minutes ago. I wanted to take a veteran to lunch. Would you please go in and have lunch with me?" And he looked at me, thought for a second. He says, "Well, my mama told me never turn down a free lunch." So we went inside, we ordered our food, started having a conversation. Waiter brought the food, we're talking. And finally, I looked at him and said, "Bill, I saw your cap. Did you know somebody on the Arizona?" He goes, "Know someone? Hell, boy, I was on the Arizona." He goes, "I will never, ever forget that morning. It was around assembly time, and I was on deck like everybody else. And I heard the sirens go off. And all I could think was, here comes another drill." But then I realized that everybody was pointing out over the horizon. And it wasn't our boys. The next minutes felt like hours and seconds at the same time as there were bombs, torpedoes in the water. The ship got hit, the stack behind me blew up, and I was thrown into the waters. And as I was treading water, trying to keep my face up, I watched my ship sink to the bottom of Pearl Harbor. I lost 2,300 brothers that day. Finally, the silence was broken as the waiter came by with the check. He placed it on the table, and I reached out to pick it up. As I picked it up, it was snatched out of my hands. And I looked at Bill and I said, I told you, I wanted to take you to lunch today. He looked at me and said, yeah, I know what you said. So what? The only thing I could think to say in that moment was, well, my mama also told me never turn down a free lunch. See, I almost missed this moment because I didn't understand the assignment. The assignment was not to check a box. The assignment was for just a few moments to connect with another human being. And those moments changed me. Now, Bill has since passed, and I will always honor that short time we spent together. That, more than any other reason, is when you lead a team. And when I decided to run for international director again, I decided to start with my heart. What about you? Do you start with your heart? Do you make sure your team has good relationships, a good foundation, so that when the rocky times come, and they will come as a leader, and they have come on this board of directors as we have struggled with the times of COVID, but because of the relationships we forged early in the year, we were able to withstand that test of excessive hours, excessive high impact decisions. Now, I've said this before, and I will say it again. Our voters were right to not vote me in 2014. And if I had been elected, I would not be standing in front of you as your international president. In fact, I would never have stood in front of any of you at any time as an international president. Start with your heart. Now, in 2016, I was fortunate to be elected. And this process of reflection and action on that has become a part of my life. It has become a part of who I am. Thank you for the opportunity to lead Toastmasters. Thank you for those of you who have sent me encouraging notes throughout the year. I've received several from people on this calls in response to magazine articles, in response to statements I've sent out. And I appreciate that because that's what makes the weight of this organization a little bit lighter. So I'm honored to be your international president, and I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, most of you at the conference this weekend. Mr. Toastmaster.
Amazing, amazing. You have done a wonderful thing in terms of adding that a face and a heart to those of us who see those names that are running the Toastmasters International and really touched our hearts. So thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. And I really don't have much else to say to make sure I don't mess this moment up. Except that we have one more speaker. And that speaker, I think Greg is here. I have to look around and see if I see him there. And Greg's a good close friend of mine, and we are in a couple of clubs. And let me read his introduction. But when you hear that, remember I was at, because we share a home club. My home club is the same as his original home club. And I remember when he first came and joined that club. Our presenter has been a Toastmaster for over 36 years. He served on the International Board of Directors from 1998 to 2000 term. He was your 1994-95 District 12 governor when the district achieved its first President's Distinguished Recognition while placing number 3 internationally. His favorite quotation is, "Toastmasters is my mental vitamin." His second favorite quote is, "Recognition equals motivation." This evening, his message is about that. Seeking that opportunity, please welcome past International Director, DTM, Greg Scott, speaking on never volunteer. There's questions in my mind about that. Never volunteer. Greg, I know you better than that. Greg Scott.
Thank you, my friend Tom, President Matt, and my Toastmasters family. Wow, what a great evening so far to see so many wonderful Toastmaster leaders in this same room, and the insights and the wisdom that has been shared already. It is just warms my heart to be here. Never volunteer. And when I was in the Air Force, in the fire department as a staff sergeant, it was the old saying, never volunteer because you'll get KP, kitchen police. Or after everybody eats, you wash all the pots and pans, put them away, and it's a late night until you get to bed. So never volunteer was driven into us. And I'm afraid that there's for many people out there, even some of our Toastmasters, never volunteer is still a safe haven. So when I think about that in my life, never volunteering, what does that mean? What's the things that come and hit me square in the face when we talk about that? Well, how much time does it take? How much challenge and extra work do I have to put myself through? And what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Isn't that what a lot of people think about? Maybe might come up with some other things to think about, but that's what hits me first. Well, I served in the fire service for 35 years. That's a pretty long time. I'm 77, so that's almost half my life. And at that time, that was a lot of fires. I remember the alarm going off, the buzzer going off, raising the doors, getting in the engine, and fasten that seatbelt, checking the crew, and off we went, whether it was a fire, a medical aid, or some type of emergency. It also was filling out a lot of paperwork, such as burn permits, thousands of burn permits, which they now, instead of being free, that you have to pay for. But the most challenging part of my job, what is the most challenging part of my job, was dealing and working with people. In Riverside, for you see, I had the 4th largest fire department in California, 1,900 employees. That's a lot of people, 100 fire stations, 3 inmate camps, and 1 air attack base and a copter. And so the daily challenges with that much action going on every Monday morning, I come in there, I was wondering, what are the problems I'm facing for that day? What kind of response am I going to have to think about? Well, in Toastmasters leadership, I find the same thing. Time, challenge, and people. Think about in your leadership career, whether it's outside or inside your Toastmasters club or district. And I believe in order to grow that I must volunteer. Those opportunities go by so quickly that you may not recognize them. And so volunteering is a word that I use in my life because it's keeping me going to this age where I am, this ripe old age. Let me share some stories, some experiences, some thoughts with each of you as you're on your Toastmasters leadership journey and think about this. I'm going to start, well, I've been in a career since 1964 and I retired in 2000. I know the very first fire I went to the fire burned through the truck. It was a grass fire. I had second-degree burns on my back. And back in the old days, we didn't have the breathing apparatus and all the protective gear. And I strapped on a 5-gallon back pump weighing 50 pounds and put a lot of fire out that day, just not thinking about it. The next day, thinking about it, I thought, this is not for me. This firefighting is, this is a bad experience. And the oncoming shift fire captain, Chester Knapsmith, one of my first mentors in firefighting, spent over an hour talking to me about stick with it. Don't give it up. If it wasn't for Chester, I wouldn't have retired with a good career as a fire chief. And same things, when you think about it in Toastmasters, I know a past district director, our governor in District 12, Michael Bain, may he rest in peace. And he joined my Toastmasters club. And after a very rough evaluation, I was in the parking lot with Michael Bain for over an hour, explaining why you should stay with Toastmasters. And yet he became a district governor, select distinguished, somebody I was so proud of, and a good friend of mine that went on for years at many conventions and many different TLIs that we planned and working together. You know what? That warms the heart when you see that you can be just a little part of something like that. So I've had a mentor work with me. I've been able to work with other people, whether it's in Toastmasters or outside in your profession. How can you apply the skills that we live every week in our Toastmasters club and our learning? As a fire captain, I also started a volunteer fire department. It was in Tres Pinos, California, in the San Bernardino County. And how did I do that? I looked for a change agent, somebody that the people in that community relied on and looked up towards. And after convincing him about the need for a volunteer fire department and training them and presenting them with an engine upon graduation, I saw that Don Ryder became the chief, and I saw, wow, what the growth in certain people. Well, it's the same thing in Toastmasters. What are we doing where leaders are made? When District 12 first started in 1989, I was part of that. I was the first area director or governor back then, and working with many new leaders, the district director and all those folks. And we had many people from District 33, Las Vegas, Ventura, Santa Barbara come over there and work with us, show us the ropes, help us get started, set a lot of procedures. And we did a lot of hard work back then, but we had fun doing it together to give a good start from that district. Now, that first year we weren't distinguished, but by golly, the next year we were distinguished for 8 years in a row. 8 years in a row because of the mentoring and the togetherness. Now, how could all this happen? And how did this continue to grow through the next 8 years? It's because, in my case, as an area director, I didn't think about doing that. I was asked, I was shared with, Greg, you would be good in that job. We need you as part of us. And let's start together, be part of that team. And by golly, that conned me into saying, okay, I'll do it. I'll learn. I'll start. I said yes. And the second part of it and doing it was the easy part because I'd already committed to that. And I had great mentors and a great team to share with there. So as we started going through this together, and by the way, that year I started the Lemon Street Toastmasters. Some of you may recall Ann Yitke, who was a new member there that walked in, and she was our vice president of education, and shortly the president couldn't make it. So I said, Ann, you're now the president. And she looked at me and said, what? I said, but Ann, I've got your back. I'll be with you the whole way. And from that start, Ann Yecke and I have been dear friends for many, many years. And I'm so honored when she refers to me as her mentor, because just being a little part of her beginning, and look at what she's doing now. Isn't she awesome? I love it. Can you digit? Can you dig it? So from that experience, my first thought of my sharing of a statement that Toastmasters is my mental vitamin was formed. What does that mean to me? Toastmasters is my mental vitamin. That means I have the confidence to do things. And it was because through the leadership program and working with people and receiving feedback and watching the results of people around you that grew and forming a team and working on teams and knowing when to lead and when to follow gives you the confidence. And that carried out over into the fire department. When you arrive at a going brush fire and it looks like it's going to be a possibility of a few thousand acres, you're on the spot. You're ordering equipment, you're developing a plan, you're staffing that organization, and you're controlling it and giving directions, and you're reevaluating all the time. You don't have time to just lollygag around. There's no ifs, ands about procrastination when you're running a fire. And so Toastmasters, though, helped me with those skills of confidence. For Toastmasters is truly my mental vitamin. I think volunteering leads from experience to the experience that you gain to a promotion. And what does that do as a fire captain? The more I volunteer for different positions, the better resume I had. So when I went into that oral orientation promotion board, oh gosh, you did this and this and this. That's something that these other people haven't done. And through my Toastmaster skills, I could demonstrate why I was the person that you wanted to hire for that job. Toastmasters helped me through that. Again, my mental vitamin. And yes, Mr. President, I did not get elected in New Orleans. I was in tears. I had worked so hard that year, calling people, working with people. I was literally in tears. And I remember Benny Baugh and John Fenwick coming into my room and sitting there with me as I just cried because I worked so hard. And they said, you know, ponder what you did here and learn about yourself. And I think I experienced that same lesson that you did about I have to really take a deep look what I did. And next year, you know, that first year that we were a District 1290 in 1989, we hosted the International Convention of Palm Desert. And I sat there as an area governor at the table, sharing information and kind of a check-in table and where you could go and all these things. And in 1998, I stood in that same hallway, looking across at that old table at my campaign booth when I was elected international director in my home district. I guess it was meant to be to have those thrills. But you know what was ever great? The district membership showed up because it was in our home district. And what a thrill to be elected by an international organization of positive people that trust in you to serve the best you can on the board of directors. What a thrill in my life. What a sparkle. And that just furthers that Toastmasters is my mental vitamin. As I promoted to chief, I faced many other challenges in life that Toastmasters was there next to me, that Toastmasters held my hand through the whole. Toastmasters had my back. When I took over in Riverside, I had the county said, you're going to be the disaster manager. Well, I know about fires, but how about floods and earthquakes and all the rest of this stuff and how to plan? They didn't even have a plan. So I developed a plan that addressed all the hazards that could be faced. I worked with all the county departments to get them involved in what resources they had to be part of that plan and to train on it, to exercise. Oh, by the way, part of that is I had 15 contract cities for fire protection, and they also wanted a disaster plan. So yes, I had to develop a staff and work with them and send them out to train. And we were recognized by FEMA as the best prepared, organized disaster management in California at that time. Now, it wasn't Greg Scott that did it. It was the people on my team that buckled down, went to school, got trained, came back, developed the plans, worked with the cities, worked with the county, and went out there. It was all of us working together and forming a relationship and an interconnection with people in cities, which they at first didn't trust the county. Oh, you're from the county? We don't want to talk to you. Let me buy you lunch, right, Matt? And so once we got that settled down, we had a good going operation. Also, one of the assignments I had at the Department of Corrections, the Norco prison, was not getting along with the camp, the inmate camp that my crews had there, my captains. There's no way that they want to deal with that. And so sitting in there with the warden at one of our meetings Monday morning, she complained, we failed the inspection. We got trees blocking the guards. They can't see you from the towers. I said, well, hey, let my inmate crews come over there and get the chainsaws. We'll cut those trees down for you so you can pass your test. I mean, that's what we're here about. And she says, well, aren't you from Cal Fire? I says, yeah. She says, you'll do that for us? I says, don't we all get paid the same wages to serve the people of this state? Yeah. And so I went back to the camp and all the captains there go, oh, you're a traitor. How could you do that? I says, no, I'm not a traitor. We're going to learn how to cooperate with these people. And so your direction is let's go cut down the trees and do what we did. A couple of days, weeks later, one of the captains came and said, hey, we could really use a forklift to do this job, but I just don't know how to do it. I says, I picked up the phone, called the corrections, and within 10 minutes, here comes a forklift. Now, what happened there? What happened in that relationship? As a Toastmaster, I learned how to listen. I learned how to understand the other view of what people think of us and then be able to respond in a positive and supportive way of evaluating that situation, responding back. Oh, did I mention positive and supportive? How about this when we do evaluations for our speakers? Well, by golly, Cal Fire, the fire department, is a military organization. So when you go in for a performance review, it's pretty harsh. It's everything that you did wrong. And all of a sudden, this new chief is coming along and says, by golly, you have these strengths. You really excel in these areas. But there's a couple areas that let's take a look at. Maybe together, we can work on these and you can bring your performance up in those areas and try these ideas. Well, my gosh, that's not allowed. We never did that in history before. Toastmasters sparked another idea. And now we give positive supportive performance reports and how to keep our employees going, because we don't want them to be afraid when they're at a fire to make a decision. I pay those people to make a decision, and I pay them to know their job and get things going. So when we get a fire going, we can stop it before it gets big, instead of being afraid that they're going to be crucified when the chief officer gets there. So there's a lot of other things. For example, the Oakland Hills fire that burned everything down. I was the incident commander on that. That led to a governor's committee and working on SIMS, the standardized emergency management system, which we worked to develop. So we now use it there. So I was very fortunate in a lot of places at the right time to be on different committees and different projects to work together to make a change for the better. One of the things that I learned about in fire management school was about planning on a fire. But I want to think about a different way of planning for you, of what a plan is. And especially when it talks about particularly your leadership skills and what you think about. Leadership is the capacity to look ahead, to think ahead, and plan ahead, and then influence other people to go ahead on the plan. That's the capacity to look ahead, to think ahead, plan ahead, and influence others to go ahead on the plan. Right, Esther? Isn't that what we did? And so who said that? Have you ever heard that before? Who made that statement? Dr. Ralph Smedley. You know him? He shared that, and that's always stuck with me about that commitment. Now, as district governor, what did I do? What did I learn from Toastmasters? Well, we've been distinguished for, I was a 6th district governor, so 5 years we've been distinguished. And so the pressure's on. My gosh, am I going to be distinguished or not? I mean, we got a string going here. And like I said, District 33, I think they were something like 18 years distinguished, who were our mentors. So what did I do? What did I learn from my experience in the leadership path up to district director? Well, again, the plan, the think ahead. And so before July 1st, 1994, we had been trained, our trio, our top 3 had been trained at the region. Prior to before, and at the same month, I had a 2-day division and area governor's training. And they had the due dates, the projects, everything laid out for them, the focus, the missions. We took our time and we did workshops with them. We did answers to questions. We even had the past district and division and area directors with them, sharing information. Who were the contacts? Which clubs were doing this? And on July 1st, we were set. We had a northbound train and we had northbound tickets. Everybody knew where we're going. And so what's happened first? Well, first of all, we had all of our semis in 100% in before any other district in the world. And we did it the second time, the second half of the year. We knew exactly what our membership per caps were, so we were at. We also collected 100% of our proxies. So our clubs were represented at the International Convention's business meeting and the voice in that. But we also had a worksheet that we could check with. Everybody had the same sheet and we could talk to each other. We didn't have the dashboards and the emails and the tweets and whatever all this stuff is now that I'm trying to figure out. It was all by voice. And you know, that year's district director, governor, I wrote everybody that achieved CTM, competent communicator or advanced communicator in those days, a personal letter. It wasn't typed out. It was a personal letter thanking them. Yes, recognition truly equals motivation. And that was my second statement that I share. You can see them up behind me on the wall here. Under after this old brand mark we had. I should hide that from Matt. But recognition equals motivation. If you think about it, why did I continue in membership? Because I was recognized and I continued to be motivated to serve. The results that I had led to a positive purpose in life, making something worthwhile to give. Now, the year went on, and by the district conference, the spring district conference, we were distinguished. And shortly after that year, our district, a little old District 12, small district, broke the records in competent communicators and advanced Toastmaster achievements that year. Advanced. I mean, we were on fire. That was a fire that I could not put out. I remember at the district conference that Cheryl Roush and Don Inch were there as our keynote speakers. And they also were just amazed at what this little district was doing and how well it did. You know what? And it wasn't Greg Scott's year. I was at the bottom. It was the team of people that I had working as area director. You know, that year I had Richard Snyder and Rick Danzy as my division directors, 2 of them. Look where they've gone. And many other folks that were on there who became district directors. So I hope I had a little part on igniting their fire to stay with leadership. And as Don Inch would say in his speech, lift off to leadership. And that's something I believe in. So my thinking is, what are we going to do for the future of organization? How are we going to put together and motivate people to say, oh, you know what? It's time for me to get out of the club environment and go into becoming an area director. Now, how can we do that? Is World Headquarters going to do that for us? No. It's us, the members, the team out here that are going to light the fires under many other people in these clubs. And so why not start looking for these people now and develop the future of Toastmasters? I'm with our international president. I want to see the best and the largest Hall of Fame ever at the International Convention. That was my, I've been speaking of that all year. My other thought was, you know, we as Toastmasters sit in that club, we give our speeches, we give our evaluations, we have fun doing the table topics, and we go home. And the only thing in our mind is, well, next week I'm responsible to do this. But what are we missing? What's going through our mind here? The complete Toastmaster does this. I too can do. I too can do. And if you haven't heard it from me, I too, each week or each period, invite 2 guests to my meeting. I have done that for all my clubs for over 2 years now. And I wear this pin every day out there so people in Lakeport, California can see it. Ask me about Toastmasters. And I invite people. They don't show up a lot, but I don't quit trying. And this year I've signed up over close to 20 new members for clubs. So you too can do. What's wrong with you thinking about outside of your club as a mental vitamin, inviting just 2 people? Maybe it's somebody you can invite to lunch and invite them. Say, would you like to go to lunch to me? And I'll invite you to a Toastmasters meeting. So what's wrong with us doing that? Why aren't we out there looking for those poor little firefighters on his first day, getting burned up and keeping them in a career? Why aren't we looking for that new Toastmaster that got a pretty tough evaluation and talking them to stay with it, and to become a future district director and governor? So my point is, my life has been 77 years. Some of you are older than I am, some are not. I know Tom is. I have a lot of respect for Tom, and we've been close friends for years. But if you're going to play it safe in life and not volunteer, you're not going to grow. None of us are going to go to the next level if you do that. If you stop learning, I think you're just going to start fading away. So let's talk about those opportunities to recognize them, not just for yourself, but other Toastmaster members. Let's point them out to them that these opportunities are floating by. That ship is going by, and to encourage them to swim out and grab that ship of opportunities and to become a Toastmasters leader. And then know that let them know that you're behind them, that you want to celebrate with them. For I truly believe one of the greatest values of being a leader is mentoring somebody to replace you and doing a better job than you did. That is the true essence of leadership, I believe, because that's what we want to do in our organization to continue. Yes, Toastmasters promise number 6, to serve my club as an officer when called to do so, is very important. But I say to you, when it's in your heart as a Toastmaster leader, when the opportunity calls, you do it. Our international president called me this year and asked me to serve on a committee. I was very honored. And with that first thought in my mind, didn't I say that? Toastmasters promise number 6, when asked to do so, I stepped up. And I was proud to do so. Be proud of what you've done this far, but share it from the heart as a leader. Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, obviously, I have to apologize to our Speakers Bureau audience out there for keeping you a little bit over. We usually run an end right on time, but I can't think of any words that were spoken tonight, except maybe my own, that we could have done without. And so I want to thank Roz for coming in person and giving her presentation, and Esther for her inspiring thing. Maybe we will all go on to work harder to help our clubs and divisions and districts succeed. And of course, from my good friend Greg Scott and his inspirational words and mental vitamins that he provided us. And by the way, Greg, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning at our club meeting at 7 o'clock. And so with that, oh, Val, did you have something to say on behalf of the district? We usually try to have the district people have something to report also to share. Valerie?
Thank you very much. On behalf of Morris Anderson, District Director, Melissa State School Program Quality Director, and myself, we are excited that all of you are here. Please check the District 12 news for what is upcoming. Please share your testimonials, look at district incentives, and continue to work on your renewals as we build success together. Thank you, District 12.
Okay, thank you, Valerie.
Tom, I would
And
like you
again-
to know that District Director Morris is online. District Director Morris is
okay.
online.
Morris, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am here. I do want to let you know that we are rescheduling our business meeting to May 20th. I'm sending out a communication on that here in a few minutes. As Dr. Valencia said, thank you so much for being here at Speakers Bureau. Thank you, International President Matt Kinsey, for coming on and giving us that wonderful message. And I hope that everybody leaves tonight inspired. Thank you.
Thank you,
Inspired.
We are so privileged and so honored, and we'll remember this for a bit to come on having Matt come and visit us. And by the way, I think we will have this all recorded. So those of you might tell your friends and members of your club to visit the YouTube and be able to see the program of which we had tonight. Thank you again. We will see you at the June Speakers Bureau meeting. Thank you all. Thank you.
On Saturday.
Who's attending the conference?
Yes, we'll see you Saturday.
From the
All
40,
right.
from the 10 and the 40 freeway.
All right.
Great meeting. You guys all
Great
rock.
meeting.
Thank you.
Rock stores, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
but we got to
you.
support Ralph with the conference.
Yes, we will be there. We
See
will
you
be there
Saturday. Coffee with
Bye.
Matt.
All right.
Greg,
Coffee scene.
a friend of mine bought me this mug.
Me before I
That's good,
volunteer
Esther.
again.
Oh, it's only an
Hey.
hour a week, Esther.
Esther, have you ever heard Pat Johnson talk
Good
about
one, Karen.
volunteering?
No, I have not.
He goes, we don't have volunteers in Toastmasters. We have students.
Oh, very nice. I like that one.
And this is part of the
Okay,
curriculum
I
you
have
signed
to tell
up
my
for.
friend about this next.
That's awesome.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Love you
night.
guys. Take care.
Thank
for
you,
now.
everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Night, night.